When you're in the middle of a crisis, it can be extremely hard to figure out what to do. You're having a panic attack. You're in a situation where you feel threatened. You feel triggered. What do you do? How do you move past that moment and continue on your journey? What do you do? We're going to talk about that today on STP. Welcome to Shattered the Podcast. STP is the story of my journey from the depths of mental illness to a place where I could live again. So, of the many times that I've been in crisis and I've had the wherewithal to ask for help, I generally reach out to my wife, and it's usually a phone call, and she can usually tell from the moment I say anything that I'm in crisis, that something is going on and I'm not dealing with it. And she has become, or she always was, or I don't know how it worked out, but she has always been so aware of how I am that the first thing that she says is breathe. Often I will not even have the chance to say anything, the chance to say anything. I will pick up the phone, uh, maybe some grunting, something like that. And the first thing that she always says is breathe. Mark, I need you to breathe. Could you breathe for me, please? Sometimes simply just, mate, breathe, breathe. And I do. I stop and it reminds me. Now, it's become such a habit in me that when I start to go into crisis, my first thought isn't to grab the phone to call my support. It's usually, not always, it's to breathe. Just to, okay, do a bit of mindfulness, remind yourself that you're safe. I have that a lot. I have to remind myself often that I am completely safe, even amongst a group of people that you wouldn't consider threatening at all. I was with a group of little kids. I caught in them. They were at the mall on some kind of excursion, and I felt really threatened by all these little kids. And I had to walk away, and I had to breathe and think about it rationally and go, Mark, you're safe. This preschool class couldn't do anything to you. But therein is kind of my problem, because the people that used to hurt me, assault me, were people with diminished capacity. They were people that had disabilities, autism, brain damage. They were people that you would not normally consider to be a threat. And my assailant, the one that ended up with me getting PTSD, was the sweetest kid in the world if you got him on the right day. Um, Completely bomb proof. Nothing upset this kid. You could have an outing with him and it would go perfectly well, and he would be personable and friendly, and um, you'd have no issues whatsoever. But at the one point that he snapped, it was a whole different story. It turned into a different person. Um, and unfortunately, um, I caught the brunt of that. So the thing is, the people that trigger me are not the people that you would expect. We went to a school fete on the weekend. I felt extremely threatened. Just all the little kids running around. Now, they could never have hurt me. And it was up to me to just constantly say, Mark, breathe. You are fine. When you're in crisis, when the world is falling apart, there is virtually nothing that you can do, especially when your mental illness is kicking in as well. And it's part of those symptoms. Um, the part of the whole situation becoming worse is your symptoms. The one thing that you can do, the one thing that you are able to do, is to breathe. Center yourself. Be mindful. Now, again, I hate the idea of mindfulness because I always think it's, people sitting in a circle holding their fingers and thumbs together going, and that's not what mindfulness is at all. Mindfulness is just about being present and being real in the situation that you're in. So at the school fete, I was completely safe, but my mental illness symptoms were going, kid, run, noise. It's just breathing and just breathing and just breathing. And it sounds so ridiculous. Like, I remember my first panic attack. I still have nightmares from it. And it seemed like such an innocuous thing. If you were looking at it from the outside, well, I don't know what you would have seen, but basically, I was taking 3 steps in one direction, spinning around, going 3 steps in the other direction, spinning around, going 3 steps, spinning around. Well, it might have been 4. I don't know how many steps it was, but it was just this short backwards and forwards over a couple of meters. And it was a loop that I was stuck in. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know how to get there. I didn't know what I was doing. I knew kind of where I was. And all I knew is I wanted to get out, but I couldn't figure out how. And that was the basis of my panic attack. That's, there's all sorts of other stuff that happened in that situation. But in that moment, that was where I was at. It was like I was a record that had got caught, and it was just and I couldn't get out of it. And I was freaking out. Now, I've had other panic attacks, obviously, since then, but that breathing thing. Now, I want to get to a little bit of somebody really enlightened me about this. And it was a little girl telling her story. Little girl, she's 19, 20, 21, something like that. And she said, when you're in a situation where you feel like you're in crisis, you need to be patient. And when I first heard this, I was like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And that's what I thought. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Be patient. What the hell is be patient? And she was wonderful enough to go into her talk about when you are at your worst moment, it's going to go away. It's not going to feel like it's going to go away, but it is going to go away in a moment where you are panicked, when you are completely overwhelmed by your situation. It will pass. It doesn't feel like it will, but it will. And when she said be patient, understand that you might have a bad day, bad couple of days, a bad week, a bad month. It will always pass. It will never be as bad as it is right now forever. And this was revolutionary to me. I didn't realize that she was verbalizing something that my wife had been teaching me from the beginning of my first kind of panic episodes. And that was my first response when I'm in crisis is to breathe, is to just stop. Now, I'm not talking about you being about to be run over by a car or you being attacked by somebody. Seriously, run away. But when you're safe, when you're in a safe place, just breathe. Just stop and breathe. And we all know that those moments come. We don't know when they're going to be. We don't know fully why they happen. But when they do, instead of embracing the panic, which is what I've done, instead of leaning into it, I lean away from it and I breathe. Just breathe. Breathe out for longer than you breathe in. Tricks the brain. Brain thinks, oh, this mustn't be an emergency. When you're breathing fast, brain's got a lack of oxygen, thinks, oh, what's happening here? This is a panic. We need to do something. We need to go into action. So we'll increase the adrenaline and the cortisone and we'll make it all happen. Whereas if you breathe and alternate your breathing. Breathe out for longer than you breathe in. Your mind is the mechanics of your mind are clicking into place, and it's listening to your body, and your body's saying there is nothing to panic about. It doesn't know why. It's a physiological response. You might be listening to this in a place where you feel like nothing will ever be better, nothing will ever be different, nothing will ever change. And the fact is that it will. There's a trick when you're a surfer. Everybody wonders how they don't drown, especially in the big surf. And the thing is, you got to pick your moments. Be aware that when you get caught in a wave, it's going to throw you. It's going to chuck you. It's going to mangle you. But if you stay calm, if you just don't breathe the water in, but if you just stop for a moment and go, okay, the power of the wave has gone past. The worst of it has gone past. Now what do I do? You can be extremely disoriented in the surf. You don't know which way is up. Easiest thing to do is just blow out and then follow the bubbles. You stop. You are in a traumatic situation. You are in a situation where your life is in peril. But if you stop in that moment, and any surfer will tell you this, when they've been caught in a wave, they've been hammered by a wave, just be patient. If you have to, swim down a little bit deeper if you have to. If you can't figure out which way is up, blow a bubble out of your mouth and just follow the bubble. Panicking, freaking out, losing control will not help. And that's the same when we have a mental health crisis. The moment you just go, you know what? I'm just going to take a breath. I'm going to remind myself that I'm safe. I'm going to remind myself that I'm in a place that is not this crisis point that my mind is telling me. And in part of that breathing, you're just being patient. You know what? I'm just going to be patient. I'm not going to let my thoughts run away and get out of control and make things infinitely worse. I'm just going to wait. I'm going to be patient and I'm going to breathe. Whatever it is that you're going through, it will pass. Whatever you're feeling right now, it will pass. And don't forget, even if that's super happy, that will pass. All these things will pass. Don't get caught in the moment of danger thinking that is the end of a journey. It's not. It's a moment. Remember, just breathe. Have a great week. I'll speak to you again next week. Bye for now. Hey, thanks for joining us on Shattered the Podcast. I'm Mark. Special thanks to my producer, Meredith Brosnan, and also to Torian, Kevin, and Lorraine. And we can't forget the amazing band Adelaide, who let us use their song as our theme. For more information, check us out on all your socials, STP Shattered the Podcast.